J. Robert Oppenheimer left a deathly legacy upon the world. He created a formidable assembly of brilliant minds in the pursuit of an unprecedented invention, the atomic bomb, a weapon of cataclysmic power, poised to forever alter the course of human history. As the conductor of this momentous symphony of scientific intellect, he guided the best physicists of the era towards harnessing the very forces that govern the universe for better or for worse. The creations of their labor would echo through the ages, affecting every war waged and every peace settled since the dark days of World War II. The very existence of the atomic bomb posed a haunting question to humanity. Did we hold the power to safeguard our own future, or were we inadvertently forging our own destruction? Oppenheimer himself was scared and once said,
"I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
In the early days of his academic journey, J. Robert Oppenheimer found himself caught in the intricate web of ambition and discontent. At the tender age of 21, he was an enigmatic figure, wrestling with the complexities of his passion for physics and the stark reality of his limitations. Oppenheimer's tutor, Patrick Blackett, an experimentalist of great repute, had a relentless desire to see his young prodigy excel in practical work. But try as he might, Oppenheimer's attempts to produce results in the basement laboratory seemed destined for failure. Clumsy and disheartened, he grew disillusioned with the tedious rigors of lab work. While the world around him buzzed with brilliance, with the likes of Rutherford and Chadwick as his peers, Oppenheimer found himself sinking deeper into despair. Quantum mechanics, a burgeoning field, beckoned to him like a siren's call, its allure in stark contrast to the drudgery of his daily lab endeavors. In his pursuit of solace, he sought refuge in the company of lectures and physics journals, yearning to quench the thirst for knowledge that burned within. One day, as the weight of frustration threatened to crush his spirit, a plan was born in the darkest corners of Oppenheimer's mind. Fueled by desperation, he conceived a bizarre and audacious act. Placing a perilous concoction of toxic chemicals upon an apple, he sought to rid himself of the source of his torment, his own tutor. In a haze of emotional anguish, he attempted to carry out his vengeful scheme, yet fate intervened. Patrick Blackett unknowingly escaped the peril that lurked upon his desk as he refrained from consuming the poisoned fruit. The news of this dangerous act rippled through the corridors of Cambridge University, threatening dire consequences for the troubled young scholar. The details of that fateful moment have been obscured by history, leaving us to wonder whether it was cyanide or some other substance he obtained from the laboratory. Despite the surreal nature of the tale, Oppenheimer himself would later verify its truth. In the midst of all these troubles, Oppenheimer's parents arrived from across the Atlantic, their concern for their son's well-being overpowering any sense of prestige. Julius Oppenheimer, wielding the power of wealth and influence, pleaded with the university authorities to spare his son from criminal charges. Remarkably, the mighty gears of justice softened in the face of privilege. Robert was spared expulsion, though not without consequence. As a condition of his continued education, he was required to undergo counseling with a psychiatrist in London. In the summer of 1926, Robert Oppenheimer embarked on a transformative journey to the University of Göttingen. The institution was a haven for theoretical physics, led by the esteemed Max Born, the man who had given birth to the term quantum mechanics. In this extraordinary academic environment, Oppenheimer found himself surrounded by the brightest minds in the field, including Paul Dirac and John von Neumann. Unlike his time at Cambridge, where the focus lay heavily on experimental physics, Göttingen provided the fertile soil for theoretical exploration. Under Born's mentorship, Oppenheimer discovered a sense of belonging and an intellectual community that mirrored his own passion for physics. The oppressive cloud that had weighed upon his mind at Cambridge began to lift, and his mental health saw a remarkable improvement. It was in this nurturing atmosphere that Oppenheimer's talents truly shone. The young physicist's journey culminated in the attainment of his PhD in physics at the age of 23. His thesis delved into the quantum theory of continuous spectra, a testament to his prowess in the realm of theoretical physics. During his 2-year tenure at Göttingen, Oppenheimer left an indelible mark on the scientific community, publishing more than a dozen papers. Many of these works built upon the groundwork laid by Werner Heisenberg, a physicist just 3 years his senior. In 1927, the year Oppenheimer and Heisenberg crossed paths, the latter published his groundbreaking paper on the quantum uncertainty principle. Remarkably, the two brilliant minds found camaraderie rather than rivalry when they met. Little did anyone know that, in the span of just 15 years, they would become adversaries on a deadly stage. Destiny had a different path for Oppenheimer and Heisenberg, as they found themselves entangled in history's most consequential race, one attempting to build the first nuclear bomb for the USA and the other for Nazi Germany. In the pivotal year of 1939, the world stood on the brink of momentous change. The great physicist Albert Einstein found himself facing an extraordinary realization. A mere 6 years earlier, he had dismissed the possibility of nuclear bombs as pure fantasy, yet the tides of science had turned, and now, with a heavy heart, he put pen to paper and added his signature to a letter addressed to President Franklin Roosevelt. The letter, though drafted by the brilliant physicist Leo Szilard, bore Einstein's endorsement and contained a dire warning. It spoke of the ominous possibility of nuclear weapons and shed light on a grave concern: Germany's access to uranium from the mines in recently Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia. Roosevelt, mindful of the gravity of the situation, set up an informal uranium committee in response to the warning. However, for 2 long years, the wheels of progress seemed to grind to a halt. Finally, in the year 1941, President Roosevelt took decisive action. He elevated the informal uranium committee to the prestigious S1 committee, a direct conduit to the White House. The primary objective was now unmistakable: the development of an atomic bomb. After completing his doctorate, J. Robert Oppenheimer's brilliance continued to shine as he embarked on a journey as a physics professor, first at UC Berkeley and later at Caltech. Over the course of 15 eventful years, Oppenheimer left a mark on numerous branches of scientific exploration. From the realms of nuclear physics to quantum field theory and even astrophysics, he strode boldly, making significant contributions. His ideas were so groundbreaking that some of his own students, like Willis Lamb, went on to become Nobel laureates. However, despite 3 nominations, the coveted Nobel Prize eluded Oppenheimer himself. The reasons for this absence of recognition were multifaceted. His contemporaries speculated that while he possessed an exceptional mind for generating brilliant ideas, he lacked the patience and perseverance required for extensive calculations and in-depth research. In 1942, General Leslie Groves was entrusted with a top-secret mission, the Manhattan Project. The task was simple: construct an atomic bomb, a weapon that could alter the course of World War II. In a surprising and daring move, General Groves selected J. Robert Oppenheimer to lead as the science director. Yet this decision did not come without doubts and challenges. Oppenheimer lacked a Nobel Prize, leading some to question if the project's scientists would respect his leadership. The concerns did not end there. Oppenheimer's political associations with the Communist Party, including his wife's affiliation, added another layer of complexity. However, General Groves was undeterred by these factors. He recognized Oppenheimer's brilliance and knowledge beyond physics, such as chemistry, engineering, and metallurgy, to be an advantage. The Manhattan Project needed a secure and isolated location to safeguard its secrecy from enemy threats. Oppenheimer proposed Los Alamos, New Mexico, a place he had fallen in love in his youth, where the harsh desert and mountains spoke to his soul. In 1945, Oppenheimer and his team of scientists faced an unprecedented challenge where time was of the essence. They needed the first test of the atomic bomb to succeed. Codenamed Trinity, the test held the weight of the world's future. Oppenheimer, the brilliant mind leading the project, couldn't escape the nervousness that gripped him on the eve of the test. The possibility of failure loomed, and he found solace in reciting a stanza from the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred Hindu poem he had translated himself. Finally, the fateful moment arrived. The Trinity test was scheduled for 4 a.m., but a storm delayed it until 5:29 a.m. At that precise moment, the world's first nuclear bomb detonated with tremendous force. With just 6 kilograms of plutonium, an explosion equivalent to nearly 25,000 tons of TNT illuminated the New Mexico mountains, shattering the darkness of the night. The shockwave rippled across the desert, felt over 160 kilometers away. A towering mushroom cloud soared into the sky, marking the birth of a new era in human history. In the last days of World War II, the world witnessed a devastating display of unprecedented power. It was August 6, 1945, when the Boeing B-29 Flying Fortress soared through the skies carrying a dreadful payload, Little Boy, nuclear bomb. The mission was clear: to unleash unimaginable destruction upon the city of Hiroshima. In an instant, the world changed forever. The blast from Little Boy erupted with a force equivalent to 15,000 tons of TNT, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. The magnitude of destruction was unfathomable, as nearly 70,000 lives were lost in the blink of an eye. The nightmare, however, was far from over. Another 70,000 souls would perish in the following months from burns and the insidious effects of radiation poisoning, but the horrors did not end there. 3 days later, a second blow was dealt, this time to the city of Nagasaki. Another implosion-type bomb, akin to the gadget tested at Trinity, was unleashed, leaving an estimated 80,000 more lives lost. The toll of death and suffering was staggering, and the vast majority of those who perished in the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were innocent civilians. Following the war, Oppenheimer achieved national hero status, gracing the cover of Time magazine and becoming a well-known figure in households across the country. He took on the role of chairman of the General Advisory Committee, where he served as a key advisor on matters pertaining to nuclear weapons. However, Oppenheimer utilized his influential position to advocate for arms control and embraced pacifist principles. In the wake of the Soviet Union's successful atomic bomb test in August 1949, the United States found itself on edge. The military swiftly concluded that developing a more potent weapon was the best response, leading to the pursuit of the hydrogen bomb, ominously nicknamed the Super. However, one prominent voice stood in opposition: J. Robert Oppenheimer. He feared that its development would ignite an uncontrollable arms race, escalating tensions between nuclear powers. Despite Oppenheimer's objections, Truman's administration pushed forward, and 3 years later, the first hydrogen bomb, Ivy Mike, was detonated in the Marshall Islands. As the years passed, the arms race intensified. In 1961, the Soviet Union tested the Tsar Bomba, the most powerful explosion ever witnessed, surpassing Ivy Mike by 5 times and Trinity by a staggering 2,000-fold. The world now found itself in the grip of an arms race, exactly the outcome Oppenheimer had dreaded. Due to his opposition to the hydrogen bomb and his relentless calls for nuclear arms control, Oppenheimer found himself in the crosshairs of the government. Surveillance on him, which had begun during his time with the Manhattan Project, continued even after he left. Illegal and warrantless wiretaps sought to gather evidence against him, questioning his ties to the Communist Party, including his affair with Jean Tatlock, a member of the party while he was leading the Los Alamos lab. In a stunning turn of events, Oppenheimer was essentially accused of treason and espionage. His security clearance was suspended earlier in December 1953. The security hearings became an international spectacle, captivating the attention of the world. In 1965, Oppenheimer was approached by reporters who sought his thoughts on a recent proposal of talks with the Soviet Union. The purpose of these talks was to put a stop to the spread of nuclear weapons and ensure global safety. Later that same year, fate dealt a cruel blow to Oppenheimer. He was diagnosed with throat cancer, a devastating consequence of his lifelong habit of smoking. On the 18th of February 1967, the world received the mournful news of his passing. With his departure, the world lost not only a brilliant mind but also a tireless advocate for nuclear disarmament. Thus, the story of J. Robert Oppenheimer stands as a reminder of the duality that exists within the realm of human knowledge and discovery. A figure whose genius brought both enlightenment and a shadow of doom upon the world, leaving an enduring legacy that will forever spark debate and reflection on the nature of scientific progress and its profound implications for the course of humanity.